Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. I wanted to give it a little bit of time for emotions to calm down before I come on here and talk about the Boston Marathon bombing and other related issues and not related issues. So this will be sort of an omnibus edition for you. First of all, the Boston bombing. I'd like to send out my best wishes to all of the people who lost a loved one in that horrible tragedy and act of terror, and also to all of the victims, those who suffered both physical injuries and those who suffered psychological trauma as a result of this terrible and tragic event. My heart goes out to everybody that has been impacted by this. And I think it is a very cowardly, destructive act that needs to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. Now, I want to point out something that should be obvious to anybody who has been watching the news, and that is the ridiculous nature of some of the conspiracy stuff that has been going around. And of course, I can only point to a certain fat-headed, bloviated motherfucking jackass down in Texas that I'm not even going to say his motherfucking name anymore because I can't even get it out of my mouth without retching. And a certain individual showing up at a press conference asking the most ludicrous, idiotic fucking question that you could possibly ask at a fucking press conference. Is this a false flag to take away our rights? Well, what did he think the guy was going to do? Say yes? He was going to slip up from his fucking script or whatever the fuck he's supposed to be doing and say, oh yeah, you caught me. It's a false flag. Well, how can you even have a fucking false flag whenever they're not even blaming anybody for it? You got to have a victim of a false flag. So if you're saying it's X and it's really Y under a false flag, there got to be a fucking X. You stupid fucking idiot. And just because you want to get your name in the news or get noticed or something like that, you're a fucking sack of shit. And as far as I'm concerned, a certain fat-headed, fucking, idiotic, right-wing, motherfucking Koch brothers funded, neo-Confederate jackass infiltrator down in Texas with his immediate calling it a government conspiracy, his immediate coming out and talking about this being a false flag whenever there's not even a flag to have it falsified, you fat fuck. Now, if you need more proof after this that this certain fat-headed individual is nothing but a complete disinformation plant who is designed to destroy the entire alt community by going over the top in such a ridiculous way every time something happens like this. First we had Richard Poplawski and Alex Jones bloviating. Oh, said his name. Son of a fucking bitch. I can't believe it. I said his fucking name. You had Richard Poplawski, who was involved in a shooting here in Pittsburgh, connected to that fat-headed son of a bitch. And you also have Sandy Hook, immediate nonsense. I got to give him credit. He kind of backed off a little bit on that one, but now he's full bore ahead on this one. And this is what he's designed to do. You know, he supposedly breaks the story of Cass Sunstein and his cognitive infiltration into the conspiracy community. That's exactly what this fat-headed son of a bitch is. That's what he does. He's designed to bring this down. And let's not forget, his entire machine is a win-win for the warmongers and the military-industrial complex. Because as he churns out the fucking fear of the evil government coming to get us and coming to get our guns, and more on that in a moment, everybody runs out and buys guns and ammunition in readiness for the evil tyranny of the government coming to get our guns. And then the predictable response is that the police state, which is here, there's no question about it, ramps up its ability to fend off anything coming at them. So they go out and buy armored vehicles. So who fucking benefits in all this? The same military motherfucking contractors and weapons manufacturers and everything else that supposedly are the bad guys in all this. But no. According to the fathead, he's supposedly on one side of this, but you know, the people who are making all the money got to be the people who are backing him, because they're the ones that win on either side of this. Create fear in the public, make them run out and buy as many guns and ammunition as they possibly can, and then cause the police state to ramp up as a result of it, because if you got more guns out on the street, you got to have more protection for your police officers, you got to have more random searches, you got to have more intrusive police state. So that's all this fat-headed fucking fat bastard jack-off down in Texas is accomplishing. And at the same time, he's going to bring down all alternative media, because they're all going to be painted by the same brush of the biggest fucking loudmouth sack of shit there is. The fat fuck in Texas. Now, just to prove yet again that this entire so-called gun control debate is nothing but a huge fucking waste of time and distraction. You had this background check expansion bill in the Senate defeated today, proving once again that no one is coming to get your fucking guns. And furthermore, no one is going to expand background checks to prevent any other criminals or people who are mentally ill from getting guns through the loopholes that remain in that law. And all of this fear-mongering about people busting your fucking door in and coming to get your guns has only served to line the pockets of the very people who are crashing everything down around us and robbing us all blind. Except for certain fat-headed fucks in Texas, who I'm sure are being paid very well by the forces behind him. So background checks dies. Now when it comes to the actual bombing itself, there was some talk today that a suspect had been identified and was arrested, but of course this turned out to be untrue. There of course are inconsistencies in the story as it is so far. Supposedly there were 1 or 2 unexploded devices that were found. The JFK library fire seems to be rather coincidental to me, supposedly unrelated. And of course, we also have now a direct parallel to 9/11 with poison letters sent to Congress and to the President. Apparently letters laced with ricin made their way to the off-site postal facility for the Capitol and for the White House, and they detected ricin in these. And this is a direct flashback to 9/11. So I don't know whether it appears as though, because they did arrest someone in connection with the letters, it appears as though that guy is a crank known for corresponding with Congress and people in office. So I'm thinking that this is some crazy guy who, after repeated attempts to get his crazy ideas paid attention to, finally decided to take an extra step. I don't know whether it has any connection in his mind to what happened in Boston or not. Maybe just trying to jump on board of something that's happening around him. But that does seem to be unrelated. But yes, there are inconsistencies in what's going on in Boston. You know what the big change is here when it comes to looking at this from the point of view of Sandy Hook and the Boston bombing is the fact that this thing was filmed by hundreds of cameras and video and pictures and everything else. It was right out in the middle of the public. Okay, none of this can be hidden. Okay, now I had said previously, posting on Facebook, that I thought that generally following the 48-hour rule, that if someone was not named or taken into custody in relation to the bombing, that no one would be for quite some time, that this would actually take a while for this to be resolved. And my first inclination was to say that this was going to be painted as a homegrown terrorist plot of some kind, whether it's one person or a group of people. So, you know, I don't know whether or not that is going to turn out to be true, but that's what I posted. I hope it is resolved quickly, because this is a very cowardly, very horrid action, very indiscriminate, and designed with the ball bearings and everything else that was put in these bombs to cause a massive amount of trauma, not necessarily kill, although killing was certainly a part of it, but to cause a massive amount of trauma and to cause psychological damage as well. So this is a very horrendous action done by whoever did this, and I for one will be very happy whenever whoever it is finally brought to justice. So you know, obviously, because this is a very public event, I think it's really good, because people can pore over the videos and the pictures and hopefully come up with something, you know, like the guy on the roof. I mean, you know, somebody pointed this out. Could be nothing. Could be a guy up there on break having a smoke. Could be a maintenance guy. Could be the bomber or one of a group of people who are involved in it. Who knows? But this is the kind of thing that you can't ignore this in the public. I mean, you know, there are thousands of people out there looking through this stuff. So it's highly likely that somebody's going to, you know, recognize somebody or see something and, you know, maybe break this case wide open. So this is the difference between what happened in Boston and Sandy Hook. And because you couldn't see or know anything that was going on in Newtown. And that's why, you know, I was so hard on the mainstream media with their complete lack of details and their lack of coverage of all the inconsistencies and their total failure. Well, you know, the media will probably completely fail on this one too, because they already flubbed the story of supposedly someone being arrested in connection with the bombings earlier today, which turned out to be untrue. And of course the, you know, unexploded bombs that turned out to not be true as well, which was harkened back to the Oklahoma City bombing. So yes, there's a lot more to be done here, and there's a lot more to be seen. But let's not also forget that at this particular juncture, we're coming off of a very bad month unemployment-wise. The economy is going down the tank. We also had the massive drop in gold and stocks, and there are a lot of things that are going on right now, and there are a lot of things that are happening that is going to cause us to want to turn our eyes away from the things that we need to be focused on. And we need to keep our eyes open, and we need to stay focused on things that are important to us, and to try and prevent ourselves from being distracted by everything that's going on around us. So whatever you have your focus on, stay focused on it and try to push forward. And you know, remember, we may be entering some very difficult times here. If this person or group that's involved in this bombing stays on the loose for a period of time, we may see more of these actions, and I do not want to see that. I do not want that to happen, because this is blatant out and out terror, because it's designed to cause this kind of mayhem and confusion and fear in the populace. And we don't need more fear, goddammit. We just don't. There's too much already. And when you have fat, fucking, idiotic, motherfucking cocksuckers down in Texas who right out of the fucking gate false flag whenever they don't even have anybody they're blaming. You can't have a false flag in that instance, you fat fuck. All he does is sell fear. That's it. And that plays into the hands of the military-industrial complex and the New World Order crowd, which, by the way, is already here and has been for years. Wake up, you fathead. So we don't need any more fear. We really don't. And just try to stay vigilant, and of course, take measures to protect yourself and people around you and those that you care about, obviously, because it's an important time to stay together and to build foundations for future and for a possible good future. And, let's try to have some hope. Thank you. Good night.